coming! Help!
Oh, freedom! Oh, freedom! Oh, freedom over me!
I am an Edomite. My kingdom is finished. I'm at my end.
My slaves, my Edomites, welcome to hell. Welcome to the kingdom.
Isaiah 14. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the stranger shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them, and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, How hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints.
I am an Edomite. My kingdom is finished. I'm at my end.
Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will lift up mine hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people, and they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. And kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. The sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and all they that despised thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet, and they shall call thee the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Kakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds. In the name of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. All right. And what I want to get into this morning, all right, is dealing with what tonight, you know, been one of them days. All right. But what I want to get into is dealing with the hammer of the earth, all right, which is Babylon. Okay, it's finished. You know, it's only a matter of time. All right. And dealing with empires, you know, empires have, you know, they rise, okay, and they have their peak, okay, which is their golden age, okay, and then they have their decline. All right, because the empires of the heathen have a beginning and an end. You see, Israel is the only nation that's promised to have an everlasting kingdom. All right, an everlasting world, okay, an everlasting age without end. All right, all these heathens, well, their kingdoms all have, you know, a beginning and the end, a set time, okay, within the existence for rulership, okay, And what we're seeing right now with the rulership of Esau Edom, he's in decline. All right. And the elites, which run, the global Edomite empire. All right. They've used America as their hammer. America was their weapon of choice, to weaken the nations, militarily, economically, and also morally. Okay. But what we're seeing now, that hammer, okay, is losing its strength. Okay. Now, of course, America, still has ability to inflict, a hell of damage and project power throughout the earth. Okay. But its ability to win a war, all right, is diminishing, and these nations, okay, have customized their militaries just to fight the war. And it's the Lord, all right, that has orchestrated, this buildup that we see now. Okay. And America is set to lose. America is set to fall. Okay. And it's written all through the scriptures. You see? So I want to start here in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 1 and verse 6. I want to read it in the AMP. Okay. As the ancient, Babylonian Empire, they went through dominating, their region over there in the Mesopotamia, the Levant. Okay. And they dominated in their region. Well, Babylon the Great, had dominated in the earth. Okay. It says, for behold, I am raising up the Chaldeans, okay, who rule in Babylon, the fierce and impetuous nation who march throughout the earth to take possession of dwelling places that do not belong to them. Okay, and America does that on a much larger scale than the Neo-Babylonian Empire. America, has a stake, has a flag planted throughout the whole earth. Those flags are those modern military bases, man. All right. Habakkuk 1 and 7 said the Chaldeans are dreaded and feared. Their justice and authority originate with themselves and are defined only by their decree. Okay, so these devils do wickedness. They even break their own laws. All right, but then they justify it by their own decrees. They can just make charges upon you and just come kidnap you, man. Okay, they can push propaganda, make you be a villain, and just come get you, man. Okay, or wage a war on you, man, and do, just bomb you to hell and back. Then just get on the TV and say, well, we did it for national security. He was a tyrant. People were suffering. We did it for the people of such and such. We freed the people. One more, he was a communist. He was fascist. He was, So these devils, they do what they want. All right, and they've, developed a fear, over during the time of America's rise. All right, it was a great war machine, man. It was a well-oiled war machine. What America was able to do in World War I and World War II. Then even leading to that, when they they defeated the Spanish, the French, okay, and the Britain, the British, they defeated them twice. 1776 and 1812. They defeated Britain twice. All right, they defeated the French in the Navy battle. And it was mostly a naval war. Okay, then they just mopped the floor with the Spanish. 5 months out of there. Okay, which that goes back into the prophecy, of the book of Daniel. Matter of fact, let's just get it real quick. All right, the book of Daniel goes into that history, that speaks about America emerging. Okay, this little horn, and that little horn will become, all right, powerful, man. Okay, and it said this is the book of Daniel, chapter 7. Let me get this in there. KJV. So this is the book of Daniel, chapter 7. In verse 7, it says, and I saw in the night vision and beheld a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. Okay, and this speaking of the Roman Empire, which Rome, all right, was a very, powerful, military force. Okay, and these Edomites, this is when they peaked out as a people. See, Rome represents Esau's, all right, the military prime. Okay, his wealth, this is when he had the most wealth, and this is when he had the most influence of the Romans. And he kept a lot of those Greek customs. That's why it's referred to as the Greco-Roman Empire. Okay, but as the Romans, this is when Esau. Okay, this was Esau's golden age as a nation. Okay, a people, man. It said dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped a residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Okay, and this devil, has revived, all right, the Roman Empire. Okay, today these Edomites, they have brought Rome back. Okay, they brought this Greco-Roman Empire, all right, back to life, man. Through the NATO, EU, and America, man. Financed by the elite bankers, man, the modern day Chaldeans. Okay, it says, I considered the horns and beheld there came up among them another little horn. All right, and this is speaking of America, because as their deadly wound was healed, because Rome was wounded, it fell, Western Rome fell, and then you had Jake ruling, the Byzantine Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, for 1,000 years. And then the devil was allowed to come back into power during the Renaissance. Okay, and eventually devils reestablished Rome in the earth. Their deadly wound was healed. Okay, and out of this new Roman Empire, okay, you had this little horn, which is America. Okay, that will be what it would be a it will come from what, Britain. Because as the EU, all right, Europe, became the Edomite power base, as they went forth conquering the earth, from Europe. Okay, and America started off as a small, British colony in what they call the New World. Okay, but then it emerged, as this little horn. It began to the Lord, allowed to become an empire to fulfill prophecy, man. Okay, it said, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. Okay, and these 3 horns were the French, the Spanish, and the British. Okay, which these are the 3, okay, empires that America will go on to defeat on their path to empire. Okay, so America had a run, the Lord was making America mighty, and by the time you get to World War II, all right, America, all right, was the dominant superpower of the earth. And what made it official was when they made the American dollar the world reserve currency, man. And then World War II, that's when Esau, all right, America, they caused that miracle to come from heaven, man. Them atomic, weaponry, man. Them atomic bombs they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, man. Okay, and that was what established, American dominance. Okay, from then on. Okay, it was a standalone superpower in the earth, especially once they dismantled the USSR. Okay, America has enjoyed, standalone superpower status in the earth, man. Okay, but as the scriptures say, let the weak say I'm strong. All right, these nations that was once weakened, all right, have made themselves militarily, all right, formidable. Okay, they have made themselves militarily equals to America. Okay, now one nation by itself will have a hell of a time with America, man. Even China and Russia by themselves, they will have a hell of a time. Okay, when the Lord has multiple nations, okay, they have made themselves, okay, a military power in the earth. all right, to go to what? To take out the whore, man. And even its allies of the EU are going to turn on the whore, man. Okay, so let's go from there. And it says, whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots and beheld, and his horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and the mouth speaking great things, man. Because it's through America, that they push, major anti-Messiah policies throughout the earth. It was through this government, that the elites, boldly blaspheme, okay, and how about Shemal Shah, man? Is this, the images of, the Messiah, the Heavenly Father, all that goes back to Renaissance art, and America was the place where these things, were pushed throughout the earth, man. Okay, by the time you get to America, all right, the elites, use America as the base to demoralize the world. Okay, so now we get to this point now where we at, all right, and over the years, America has begun to dwindle because, they just been enjoying their status, to where they can just speak. There was a time when America would just speak. It was a time when America wouldn't have had to go to Venezuela. Okay, they would have bowed down. There was a time where the Houthi rebels, okay, they wouldn't have dared, all right, challenge America Navy in the Red Sea. Okay, so what we see these moves these nations doing is showing that America is losing power. All right, and you'll have little sparks, little flashes, like a washed-up boxer, or washed-up basketball player. He's getting old. He'll show a few sparks of, youth every now and then. Okay, but he don't got it. He can't go 12 rounds like he used to. Okay, he ain't built to play full game like he used to. Okay, but you'll see sparks here and there, but he still, got that knockout power, but he can't get off like he used to, man. Okay, and I got a video that's kind of that's going to go into that. Quick snippet. It's two points I want to get in this video. Okay, 2 little snippets from our man Shahid Boslin. Okay, and he kind of goes into, the status of America. Okay, because it's dwindling. Okay, so let's play this. It's just a matter of time. When this war really, kicks off, America's gonna be exposed. Okay, because America, all right, is deceived. Okay, it's past record. The fear, that, the American name and the American military once, had the weight that they used to carry. It don't carry like it used to. They still are rogue. All right. And they just, America some street niggas, man. So they still do what the hell they want to do. Okay. And, it's not worth, like when America do things like the latest incident in Venezuela. Okay. That little incident ain't worth, Russia going to World War III like that, or China going to World War III over what happened in Venezuela. Okay, because we know according to the Bible, it's going to be the least of the flock, those small hats. All right, they're going to kick this war off, with this ongoing rivalry they got with Iran. Okay, so these nations know they're losing respect, for America. All right, but they're not reckless when dealing with America. Okay, there's still a level of, respect. Okay, but they see this bitch dwindling. You see, so let's play this.
Obviously, what the U.S. did is flagrantly illegal. Obviously, that's not even interesting. They're an outlaw country. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. It's not even an interesting observation at this point. It's like if you find out that Jeffrey Dahmer was also a shoplifter. Who cares? We know this already. America is a completely renegade nation, a rogue state, and always has been, especially in the Western Hemisphere, especially in Central and South America. But the problem is, with regards to Venezuela, if you restate history, if you recite the catalog of U.S. crimes in Central and South America, and you contain the kidnapping of Maduro exclusively within this context, then I think that you will misunderstand what's happening. If you're only looking at it as part of the history, because it looks like, if you do it that way, it looks like the perpetuation of the same pattern, right? It looks like same old, same old. It's just, there they go again. There America goes again. I think it was even done on the anniversary of the U.S. invasion of Panama and the arrest of Manuel Noriega. So it looks like, from the outside, apparently, it looks like the U.S. is just continuing as they always have. But this is a mirage, in my opinion. Understand, the U.S. is like a former boxing champion who has had to start to inject himself with a whole cocktail of hormones and a whole cocktail of drugs just to keep up the appearances that he's still a champion. Now they have to pay opponents to take a dive. It's been a very long time since that fighter ever knocked anyone out in a real fight. So when you only contextualize U.S. actions by their historical behavior only, I think that you can overlook what has changed. And it's incredibly important to look at what has changed. I mean, first of all, let's get a few things clear right from the start. The Trump administration, like I've said many, many times, is fully aligned with the A National OCGFC, not with the military-industrial complex. If you look at it, every single thing that Trump has done in his term.
And he's speaking about the elites. He called them, those abbreviation, goes into organized crime group. Okay. So ultimately he's speaking about the elites. All right. And these major corporations that Trump is aligned with. Because everything that Trump is doing, all right, is segue into New World Order. Okay, even this oil, because he made another statement, which I can find it for Morning News and Prophecy, but he made the statement, even with the oil, America needs power for the data centers, man. They're about to use a lot of power, for the data centers, man. They're already, catching hell trying to power, all right, their DPI, digital public infrastructure, which is your data center, all right, your cameras, okay, your what do you call it, your 6G, okay. It's going to take a lot of power, so these devils, they need a lot of resources, okay, to power their New World Order, okay. So even, the oil, of course, it gives them leverage, against the East. They took away, all right, reserves from the East, all right, but it's not significant to what the East is just through, okay. And also it's a play, for energy that they need, okay, because he said this in the same interview, but I have to time stamp it for News and Prophecy in the morning. I'll write this out, let it play some more.
Has done nothing but boost American isolation, American withdrawal. It's boosted BRICS. It's boosted, has changed. I mean, first of all, let's get a few things clear right from the start. The Trump administration, like I've said many, many times, is fully aligned with the A National OCGFC, not with the military-industrial complex. If you look at it, every single thing that Trump has done in his term has done nothing but boost American isolation, American withdrawal. It's boosted BRICS. It's boosted China. It's boosted Russia. It's boosted BRICS. It's boosted multipolarity, because that's his job. He's a Khaliji president, like I've said many times, And if your analysis of geopolitics starts from a position of, for example, validating the idea that there's a fundamental power conflict between the U.S. and between the U.S. and China, it's just to keep up the appearances that he's still a champion. Now they have to pay opponents to take a dive. It's been a very long time since that fighter ever knocked anyone out in a real fight.
And that's the point I want to harp on. He said it's been a long time, all right, since that opponent has knocked someone out in a real fight. Now, we went through history, because, hey, this the truth. We're going to get credit what credit due, okay? But then when you look at it from this perspective, because when he made that point, I was like, because I had been saying it, but then like, okay, let's tap into it. Okay, so I just asked the chat, real quick question on the chat. I said, when was the last time America fought another first world country in the actual war? It says short answer, World War II. Okay, so let's go here. It says, when was the last time America fought another first world country in the actual war? Short answer, World War II, or from 1941 to 45. That's the last time the United States fought a full-scale war against another first world country, specifically Nazi Germany, Imperial Japan, and Fascist Italy, all of which were advanced, industrialized great powers at the time. Why this answer needs a little nuance. The term First World, originally comes from the Cold War, meaning countries aligned with the U.S. and NATO, colloquially today, people use it to mean highly developed industrialized nations, under either meaning. World War II is still the best answer. What doesn't count and why? So Korean War, 1950 to 1953. North Korea and China were not considered first world industrial powers. South Korea wasn't either at the time. Vietnam War, Vietnam was not a first world country. Vietnam was giving America the work over there. Okay, it was one colonel of the Marines. He said that he wished he had 2,000 men like the Vietnamese soldiers, man. I was watching a documentary a while back. It was just some random documentary that came on. But it says Gulf War, Iraq War. It says Iraq was not a first world state. Afghanistan, not first world state. Yugoslavia, Serbia, not considered first world. Libya, not first world, 2011. Grenada, Panama, not first world. Edge cases, people sometimes debate. Let's go back. All right. So let's go back. It says 1945 is the last time the U.S. fought another fully industrialized pure nation in the actual war. All right. So America really hasn't been battle tested in almost 80 years, man. Okay. But they've been respected. Okay. And they've been bullying these nations around. All right. They don't have to really do much because of that respect. They riding their wave, but now these nations finna pull their card. Okay, now these nations finna see what's up. Okay, and it's the Lord got a spirit on them to be like that, man. All right. Now, ironically, so I said, was Amalek known for attacking the weak in the Bible? Okay, it says yes in the Bible. Amalek is explicitly known for attacking the weak and vulnerable. Okay, and that's what America has been doing for the last 80 years, man. They just been bullying, nations that don't stand a chance from the jump. Okay, and now we're in the time where the Lord has allowed, particular nations, and mainly the alliance with China, Russia, and Iran, to form an alliance, that's going to do America ass in, man. And it says, the clear statement comes from Deuteronomy 25, 17 through 18, which explains why Amalek is singled out so harshly. It says, remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you came out of Egypt, how he attacked you on the way when you were faint and weary and cut off. Okay. It says, and cut off. All right. And it says, remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you came out of Egypt, how he attacked you on the way when you were faint and weary and cut off your rear ranks, those who were lagging behind you, and he did not fear the Most High. Okay? It says key points from this passage. The Israelites were exhausted and vulnerable after leaving Egypt. Amalek attacked the rear, targeting those who were weak, tired, and straggling, mainly women and children. All right? Same thing that they do today. Okay, what's happening in Gaza? Okay, most of those casualties are women and children. Okay, and it's just the spirit of Esau, especially Amalek, man. Okay, to attack the vulnerable, man. It said this behavior is represented as morally reprehensible, not just military hostile. This portrayal is reinforced by Exodus 17, verses 8 through 16, which records Amalek's attack at Rephidim and Israel's battle with them, which Israel overcame. That's the account when Moses had to have his, arms held up, okay, as the militaries were fighting and they overcame Amalek. All right, led by Joshua. It said later biblical tradition treats Amalek as uniquely culpable because of this initial act. Bible theme: Amalek becomes a symbol of cowardly or unjust aggression, attacking the defenseless rather than engaging honorably. And what you see with Amalek today: coward shit, blowing up cell phones and scooters, and you know, have your secretary kill you at the banquet, and some, you know, he's very dishonorable how he wages war, man. Okay, and it's cowardly, man. Just have the IDF just terrorize, Palestinian civilians, man. He just a nigga in power, man. All right, he's a coward in power. All right, it says opposition to Israel at its most vulnerable point. So within the Bible's own framing, Amalek isn't just an enemy nation. They are remembered specifically for preying on the weak, which is why they receive such lasting condemnation in biblical texts. Okay? So this is what we see because it's Amalek that run the military of America. All right? Amalek is calling the shots of the American military. And I want to get this last little snippet, and then we'll get some more precepts. I want to get this last little snippet dealing with America. So let's go here to about here, like the place at the very end.
And they realize that their children are going to live in a world where their nation, their so-called civilization, is a secondary power. You see, that's what I said at the beginning. Both ends of the narrative spectrum are lying to you about Venezuela. Both of them are trying to affirm America's continued global dominance. The ones who say that what they did in Venezuela is right, and the ones who say that what they did in Venezuela is wrong. They're both trying to affirm that America is still the big bad player. That's why I'm trying to give you a higher altitude view so that you can watch it unfold step by step, and you'll recognize what you're seeing. Hopefully, you'll be able to discern the system as it actually is when you see it operating. In my opinion, the Venezuela operation is like a blueprint, and we might see it again. We might see it used again, perhaps in Iran or maybe even Israel. Like I said, because any leader who does not prove their utility to this new architecture is on a countdown. But that's not an American imposed countdown. You need to understand this. Trump is not an originator of policy. He is a facilitator of policy. And the OCGFC is the beneficiary. The American empire is functionally already over. They cannot act unilaterally anymore. You understand? They only shoot when they have been told where to shoot, who to shoot, and when to shoot. So just because you're used to watching them shoot or you're used to them shooting, you have to understand that when they do it now, when they start shooting now, they're doing it for someone else.
Yeah, America is, the mercenaries. Right, the American militaries are the mercenaries for the elites. Okay, these wars, dressed up as patriotic and for national defense. All right, and they create a villain. Okay, and then they catch the villain at the end. For the Hollywood ending every time. Saddam. All right, Bin Laden. Okay, Gaddafi. You see, the leader of Hezbollah. Okay, the Iranian general, they create these villains. Okay, and they create, all right, this big threat that they have to go neutralize. Okay. And then they have this Hollywood ending, but it all goes back to the agenda of the elites. Okay. Like I say, Trump is not, okay, making any war plans. He don't know what the hell going on. All right. He's not picking who he's going to go with next. You know, it's an act. He's on TV now saying, oh, we could be Greenland, you know, Mexico, watch out, Colombia, you know, Nicaragua, you know, he just saying, throwing out. He doesn't choose who's next. All right. And he for damn sure don't make no battle plans. Okay. Trump is not no smart guy like that. Okay. Them Edomites that you see on TV are not smart. Elon Musk, all right, all them guys, you know, they touched. Okay. They a step or two behind. Okay. But they're put up there to act and keep you distracted and keep you talking about things that don't matter. Okay, while the elites move forward with their agenda, man. Okay. This is Psalms 33 and 14 says, from the place of his habitation. Start at 16. This is the point. It says Psalms 33 and 16 said, there is no king saved by the multitude of an host. A mighty man is not delivered by much strength. A horse is a vain thing for safety, neither shall he deliver any by his great strength. Behold, the eye of the Lord is upon them that fear him, upon them that hope in his mercy. And the Lord is going to show that his people fearing in him is more powerful than the greatest military the earth has ever seen. Okay? See, the Lord finna make a point. See, this is David and Goliath 2.0 on a whole nother level. Okay? That the Lord is finna showcase his power. All right? It said to deliver their soul from death and to keep them alive, you know, in famine. Our soul waited for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. Okay? And they'll say we don't have to make alliances with foreign nations and, you know, make these military or economic alliances. We don't have to deal with geopolitics. Okay? We just got to trust in our power. Okay? We just got to have fear and faith in our power, man. And we good. Okay? The Lord got all the power that we lacking. You see, in this situation. It said, for our heart shall rejoice in him, because we have trusted in his holy name. Let thy mercy, O Lord, Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai, be upon us, according as we hope in thee. Okay, according as we hope in thee. So, yeah, that's the point. You know, I think the point been made. Just want to get into that. Something I listened to earlier, man. Wanted to respond to it. You know, the snippets. Okay, and this is where we at. All right, like, it's only a matter of time. All right, America is an empire in decline. All right, don't believe the hype. Don't believe the Hollywood theatrics, man. All right, this nigga's on the way out. Okay, the gimmicks ain't gonna keep him in power, man. All right, and he for damn sure can't stand up against Yahweh Shai. All right, so Lord will you brothers and you sisters edified. Till next time I say shalom.